Well, I really thought we were making some progress because the Black Lives Matter madness that came to this country, of course, it came from the United States of America. And this is why when I first saw it, I tried to ring alarm bells. I tried to tell people this is Marxist, it's anti-capitalist, it's extremist, it wants to bring down society, but not many people then were prepared to listen. The changes that are now going on through British sport are huge and very, very welcome indeed. Wilfried Zaha, Crystal Palace star, superstar, he said that to take the knee is degrading. He'd rather stand tall and proud, and I agree with him. And what about Lyle Taylor from Nottingham Forest? Listen to what he had to say to Nick Ferrari on LBC the other day.
I took the decision because I felt that enough was enough. Not enough people have looked into the organisation that has kind of brought this all to the fore. Now, I said before that I agree with the message that Black lives do matter and something needs to be done about that to actually push the message that the racial inequality and the societal injustice needs to stop. But by the same token, we are hanging our hat on a Marxist group who are simply, they're looking to defund the police. They're looking to use societal unrest and racial unrest to push their own political agenda, and that's not what black people are. We're not a token gesture or a thing to hang your movement on just because it's what's powerful and what's going on at the moment. When the things they do and the things they're known for have become more commonplace and more, I suppose, become wider knowledge, we're still having them forced down our throats. Still.
Do you think, and I don't want to be rude, but when you and the other 10 blokes from your team and the 11 blokes from the other team take the knee, do you think, particularly if they're white fellas, do they have a full appreciation of what they're actually doing, Lyle?
No, but I also feel sorry for them on the other hand, where even if they knew and agreed with what I'm saying and what other black players are saying, they can't not take the knee. They cannot, a white player cannot stand there and say, I'm not taking the knee.
Well, I tell you what, this guy really gets it. And Lyle, I'm suggesting when you're done with football, you better get into politics because I think we really, really need you badly. And other clubs have gone even further. Indeed, Brentford, another championship side, and Ivan Toney, their star striker, he said, I feel we're being used like puppets. And I tell you what, mate, you are. Everybody is, cricket, rugby, football, they've all been used as puppets by an organisation that actually wants to widen divisions in society and not to heal them. So that's good. And indeed, the Scottish rugby team, 15 of them, when they played against England, it was only 4 of them out of the whole team that took the knee. So I thought things were getting better. But I said at the beginning that most of these things come to us from the United States. And it wasn't, of course, just the sporting world that lost its marbles over Black Lives Matter, that stopped being objective, not about the aims of justice, about the aims of fairness in society, but lost all objectivity in terms of who the organisation was. But corporate companies, they went down the same route as well. And of course, you've heard over the course of the last year, unconscious bias training that, companies train people because somehow, somewhere, you must be biased, you must be prejudiced, and we're going to put you through this course because we want you to feel very guilty about who you are, what your country is, and what the past represents. Well, I was hoping that perhaps we'd reach the peak of this madness, but I'm afraid not. Because this week we learn that Coca-Cola, that venerated US institution, and I know Coca-Cola a little bit, they're headquartered in Atlanta, and in 2017, I went to their HQ as a guest of theirs. I gave a presentation to some of their managers, really talking about global trends in politics, and I was very struck what a nice working environment it seemed, and of course what a hugely successful company it's been over all these decades. But Coca-Cola, of all people, have now clearly lost their marbles because they're now putting their staff through compulsory training how to be less white You think I'm making this up? Have a look at this on the screen. So to be less white means you'll be less arrogant, less ignorant. I mean, the list goes on. Try to be less white. And the inference here is clear, isn't it? That white is bad. White means supremacist. White means you look down your noses at everybody else. White means you are guilty. And this is what Coca-Cola is foisting upon their employees in the USA. I do hope this is something that doesn't cross the Atlantic. But until we have more people, far more people in British politics and British media unafraid to stand up and tell the truth, unafraid of the extreme left screaming racist at them, even though they know themselves that that would not be true. Until we do this, I fear we continue down this route. And what is telling white people they are guilty and bad? What is that doing? Do you think it means that white people who are exposed to this suddenly think, yes, I must become a better person. I must make sure I exhibit within myself no prejudice towards anybody? Or does it actually make white people really, really angry and actually make them feel that society is now more divided than it ever has been? And that's why we need the heroes like the Lyle Taylors, like the Wilfred Zahas, because these are prominent black people in British society with big fan bases, prepared to stand up and tell it as it is. You know, if you think about people who have been great campaigners for a fairer, better society, I guess Martin Luther King has got to be pretty near the top of that list. And that famous speech, you know, the I Have a Dream speech, and what an amazing orator he was. But Martin Luther King says in that speech, I want my 4 children to be judged not by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. And he's right. Sadly, those now 60 years on that have inherited his position as being those that are campaigning for justice, fairness and equality don't want our children, our young people, to be looked at purely on character, honesty, integrity, intelligence. No, they want us all to be divided up into different groups based on race, gender and sexuality. And all this is doing is driving society apart. And I think we should all just reflect on what Martin Luther King was fighting for, and we should commit ourselves when we are confronted with this nonsense, when we are told we must atone for the past, we must confess our guilt simply because we're white or any other colour or any other faith. We've just got to say enough is enough. And we have, over the last week, we have been told that the government are going to start fighting cancel culture in universities. Well, I very much hope that's not just words. I very much hope that they do. But we also need cabinet ministers to stand up and say that all of this, from unconscious bias to now being urged to be less white, needs to end pretty damn quickly.